Security cameras and cameras carried by campers don't just capture beautiful landscapes or unforgettable adventures. Every now and then, they record moments that leave even experienced outdoorsmen searching for answers. Some of the stories you're about to hear involve genuine danger from other people. Others reveal discoveries that investigators had to step in and examine, and a few remain difficult to explain even today. These are 6 camping trips that started like any other and ended with memories their owners will probably never forget. In April of 2020, a young man named Noah decided to take his truck out to the forests of Sun River, Oregon, for a solo camping trip. The kind of quiet escape that sounds simple enough until something goes wrong in the middle of the night.
So I was originally not gonna make this video just because I don't really have my setup or anything yet. But a few days ago I was camping in Sun River, and what I thought would be a good location to pull over to the side of the road in like this forest area and sleep, which I thought no one was really around, turned into someone trying to creep on me, creep in my truck while I was sleeping. So, and I got some GoPro footage of it. It's kind of hard to tell, but you can kind of hear it in the background. But yeah, didn't really record after I got out and stuff.
He had been driving through the area when he found what seemed like a good spot, pulled off the road, and drove his truck deep into the trees. Nobody was around. The road behind him had been empty, and he settled in for the night feeling reasonably comfortable about where he'd parked. That comfort didn't last long. Sometime during the night, Noah was pulled out of sleep by sounds coming from outside the truck. He lay there listening, trying to figure out what he was actually hearing, and slowly the pattern became clear. Footsteps, moving deliberately around his vehicle. He reached for his GoPro and started filming, whispering into the camera with the kind of controlled panic that comes when you're terrified but trying not to make a sound.
I'm currently sleeping in the back of my truck right now. I don't even know what time it is, and there's someone walking around my truck right now. If you can hear that, it's pretty loud. He's been walking around for like 20 minutes already. My gun's in my cab though. I don't really know what to do. I'm a little freaked out right now, and it's like pitch black outside, probably like 2 in the morning, and he just keeps walking around, and he's like really close to my truck. I've never been this scared, and like this doesn't make any sense because I parked somewhere where you couldn't see. No one was on that road. Wait, he's touching my truck.
Whoever was out there had already been circling for around 20 minutes by the time he started recording. The footsteps weren't random or passing through. They were slow, deliberate, and entirely on his truck. Then came the knocking.
He's literally knocking. He's literally knocking on my truck. The canopy, the back door's locked. I can never been this scared before ever. I don't think he knows that there's anyone in here. I'm so scared right now. I wish I brought my gun back here. He keeps walking around. I don't get it. I'm like, how is he not? I've noticed. It doesn't make any sense.
First on the canopy at the back, then on the rear doors, a sound that made it clear this wasn't an animal and wasn't someone who had stumbled across the truck by accident. The person was checking it, working their way around it, and at one point pressed their face against the glass, trying to see whether anyone was inside. Noah sat completely still in the dark, not making a sound, knowing the only thing standing between him and whoever was outside was the locked doors he'd had the sense to secure before going to sleep. He had no way of getting out, no way of driving off without making himself known, and no way of knowing what would happen if the person outside figured out he was in there. All he could do was wait, listen to the knocking and the door handles being tried one after another, and hope that the footsteps would eventually move away. They did finally, as the night wore on, and when daylight came, Noah got out of there and drove straight home. It was only in the morning light that the full picture became clear.
So I'm back home. This is the day after. He was trying to peek in my truck quite a bit with all these marks. I didn't even notice until I got home. Handprints there, a lot of scratches, stuff like that. Dragging his finger on my side of my truck. Well, looks like to be trying to get inside my truck. That's really all I could tell from when he was walking around. That's new. Don't know how that got there. More handprints trying to get in my truck. At least the back canopy was locked, but yeah, that was the result. So that was probably the scariest camping experience I've probably ever had in my entire life. So yeah, well.
Handprints were spread across the back window of his truck from someone pressing against the glass to look inside, and more prints covered the door handles from where the same person had tried repeatedly to get in. Finger drag marks ran along the side of the truck as well, the kind of marks left by someone slowly feeling their way around a vehicle in complete darkness. The forest had been pitch black that night, and whoever was out there had no light with them. They never identified themselves, never said a word, and Noah never found out who it was. No update was ever posted, so the question has remained open ever since. Noah never discovered who spent that night circling his truck in the darkness. But our next story proves that sometimes the most disturbing discovery isn't someone following you. It's what has been waiting on the land long before you ever arrived. Coyne and Victoria run a YouTube channel called Wiggins' Wild World, where they document their off-grid homesteading journey in the Arizona desert. So when they uploaded footage on January 11th, 2025, from one of their first walks around their newly purchased 20-acre parcel, nobody was expecting what they found out there. The two of them were hiking the land, trying to locate the corner boundaries of their first 5-acre section, excited about everything they were building and admiring the wild Sonoran landscape surrounding them.
We're out here today on the property trying to find the last corner marking of the first 5-acre parcel we're going to develop, and we're doing it by sight because it's kind of fun getting to not hide and seek, but kind of hunt for something. And we're using some trees and some foreground and background, like using a tree with something behind it out here to figure out our straight line. And we just realized a tree is going to block our view, so now we're going to have to use this new tree as our reference point. But yeah, we're having fun. It's so neat out here. It's like we're giants in a forest.
Kinda.
You know what I mean? Just like trudging around aimlessly.
Then Coyne looked down and found something in the dirt.
So we just found a little kid's backpack, like a kid-sized backpack, which wouldn't like be too alarming or anything, but it's like in the wash. And a little while ago, just randomly walking through here, we found 2 pesos, like 2 peso coins, and we found a little kid's shoe. So I'm like, hopefully somebody's stuff got accidentally washed down from the wash, but I really, really hope we don't find like something gruesome in the area on the new property, because that would suck pretty bad.
Yeah.
You know, because we are so close to the border. Like,
there's a backpack, a shoe, and some monies.
yeah, I really hope we don't find some person or persons that
We're trying to make their grand escape. Oof.
2 old Mexican peso coins, one dated 1992 and one from 1998, sitting there as if they'd simply been dropped and forgotten. It was an odd thing to come across in the middle of the desert, but not immediately alarming, and their first assumption was that the coins had been washed down through the dry wash system that runs through the property. They noted it and kept walking. Then they found the backpack. It was child-sized, old, partially buried in the wash, and the front pocket had been shredded in a way that didn't look like ordinary wear over time. A short distance away, sitting near the same area, was a small child's shoe, sun-bleached, partially disintegrated, but unmistakably belonging to a young child. The three items, the coins, the backpack, and the shoe, were all clustered in roughly the same spot beneath a large tree near what appeared to be a pack rat's nest, and the mood between Coin and Victoria shifted noticeably as they stood there taking it in. Victoria said out loud what both of them were already thinking, that she really hoped they weren't about to find something gruesome on their new property, that she hoped it was all just belongings that had washed down accidentally. They both knew how close they were to the border and what that proximity sometimes means for the land out there. Then they found the bone.
The shoe's over here, right?
Yep.
Yeah, right there. And I'll show you the bone.
So
It's
it
right
would be
here.
different if it was just the shoe. But we found a little kid's shoe. We found a little kid's backpack. And we found this bone under that tree.
Who knows, though? Sorry, buddy. If that was you and that happened, that's off, dog. Hey, how do I know if it's big? Coin just saw these bones right here.
More bones, and not when we were looking either. Like, we're walking. I think this is deer.
Those are deer bones? Hope so.
It was long, smooth, and curved, the kind of shape that could belong to a femur, and it was small. Small enough that Victoria immediately questioned whether it might have come from a child. Coin tried to stay grounded, suggesting it could be from a deer, hoping out loud that was the explanation. But then they found more bones nearby, and one of them appeared to have a clean cut along it, the kind of mark that suggested a blade rather than anything natural. They kept filming, documenting everything carefully, both of them speaking in the measured tones of people trying not to jump to conclusions while standing in front of something that makes conclusions feel unavoidable. The stretch of Arizona desert where their property sits lies near known migrant routes, where people attempt crossings on foot through extreme heat, risking dehydration and in some cases falling victim to human trafficking. Children's belongings mixed with what may be human remains in that particular location carries implications that are difficult to sit with, and both Coin and Victoria knew it. They called the local sheriff's department through a non-emergency line, and a deputy agreed to come out and meet them at the property, where they walked the officer through everything they had found. Whether the bones turned out to be animal or human was something only that investigation could determine, but the weight of what they'd stumbled across on what was supposed to be an exciting walk around their dream property stayed with both of them long after the camera stopped rolling. Coin and Victoria expected their new property to mark the beginning of an exciting chapter in their lives. Our next camper set out expecting an equally ordinary night on the trail, only to discover that sometimes the people you never actually meet can be just as unsettling. Since 2017, a YouTuber named Phil has been running a channel called Hike Slam, where he documents everything that goes into preparing for long hikes, camping alone in the woods, choosing the right gear, and pretty much anything connected to life outdoors. On the night before Thanksgiving 2021, he headed out for an overnight hike on the Appalachian Trail near his home in Virginia, expecting nothing more than a quiet night in the woods.
Hi, Phil here from Hike Slam. Today I'm gonna hike into the woods a little bit here in Virginia and do an overnight. It's the day before Thanksgiving. It's supposed to be cold tonight, but I'm looking forward to it. This is gonna be a lot of fun. Last time I was on this section of trail, it was September, so leaves were on the trees. It was warm. Right now it's really nice. It's probably low 50s, but it'll be colder tonight, so I'll have a fire, have some food, set up my tent, and we'll see what we find. So I'm gonna get going here. And
for the first half hour, everything went exactly as it normally would. Then things started getting strange.
so the hike's been awesome so far. I mean, I've only been out for about half hour. River behind me, really pretty day. As I was walking up, I saw some trash in the trail, and I came across this. So some Bud Light cans, plastic bat, some writing on some of this garbage. This one. Hangman is coming down from the gallows. Song lyrics. Other weird things. Well, hopefully I don't get murdered out here. That would totally ruin my day.
He came across odd-looking trash on the side of the trail, which wouldn't have been particularly alarming on its own, except that some of the containers had writing on them, not just names or dates, but what appeared to be entire song lyrics and poems, handwritten in full-on plastic containers, and then left on the trail as if they meant nothing. It was a strange enough thing to stop and look at, but Phil kept moving, and as he crossed into the wilderness boundary, the trail started offering up something worse.
The weirdness continues. What the hell?
More notes appeared, scattered along the path as he made his way toward the campsite. Some of them read like cryptic poems, others went deep into conspiracy theories about undercover federal agents, and others still seemed to be biographical, written by someone telling pieces of their own story in fragmented and unsettling detail. Then, sitting right next to the notes, he found a dead duck. Whether the person who wrote the notes was the same person responsible for the duck is impossible to say with certainty, but the notes were in good condition, clearly left there recently, and the two things were sitting side by side in a way that felt like far too much of a coincidence to dismiss. About 20 yards from the notes and the dead duck, Phil spotted a tarp and an active fire next to a campsite. He gave it as wide a berth as he could and kept moving. Shortly after, two women came down the trail with their dog, asking Phil whether he'd seen the man who had been leaving the disturbing notes and dead animals along the path.
Okay, well that was really weird. So as I was hiking toward the shelter, still considering what I was going to do for the night, these two women were hiking in the opposite direction. They had a little dog with them. They asked if I had seen the guy who was leaving the notes. I said he has a campsite down by the river because I could hear the fire going. I could see where his tarp was set up. He was actually just sitting on a rock down there. They were shocked I was still considering camping out there, but I decided that I didn't really feel like it, and plus they said that they were kind of freaked out and asked if I would go with them and walk past his campsite so they could get back to their car. So I did, and then when I got back to my truck, I went over to the other side of the road, drove up like a Forest Service road, and I'm actually on the Appalachian Trail, just going the opposite direction. So instead of going instead of going south, now I'm going north. But I'm just going to find the closest camp spot to where I'm at because the sun is going down, and set up camp and, yeah, settle in for the night. All right, let's get going.
When Phil mentioned the nearby campsite and the fire still burning beside it, both women looked genuinely scared and asked him to walk back to their car with them. He went and then headed off in a different direction to find somewhere safer to spend the night. He found a new shelter further along and settled in, and for a while the evening felt normal again. Then he opened the shelter log, the shared notebook that hikers on the Appalachian Trail use to leave notes, trail names, and stories for whoever comes after them, and the handwriting inside stopped him cold. It was identical to the handwriting on the notes and garbage from miles back on the other side of the road. The same person had been here too, and what they'd written in the log only made things worse. References to a stint in solitary confinement at a county jail in 2018, fragmented biblical passages, rambling accusations directed at people identified only by initials, thoughts that lurched between directions without warning and never quite landed anywhere coherent. Phil tried to settle down for the night, but before he could get to sleep, he heard movement near the shelter and looked out to find a single figure with a headlamp walking around outside in the dark.
Okay, I'm out on the trail. It's the middle of the night. I was down in my tent, not asleep, kind of just like lying there staring at the tent walls, listening to all the sounds, and then I heard somebody down by the shelter. So at first I had to convince myself it wasn't what I thought I heard, but it definitely was somebody down there. So I didn't even wait to see or go down to see who it was, see if it was like a bunch of teenage girls or something. I don't know. I was just like, I am getting out of here. So I packed up all my stuff, and I packed it up very quickly. I don't think I left anything behind, and I just walked past. As I walked past, I did look. It did look like a single guy hanging out in the shelter. He had a headlamp on. All I could really see was the light from the headlamp, so I could have been wrong. But man, it was...
He didn't wait to find out who it was. He packed up quietly, checked over his shoulder the entire way, and made it back to his truck without being followed. As of 2024, he hasn't posted another video about that night on the trail, and whoever was out there leaving those notes has never been identified. Phil walked away with more questions than answers, never knowing who had been leaving those disturbing messages behind. The next camper experienced something different altogether, because this time the danger seemed to be circling him in the darkness. Before we continue, if you're enjoying the video, make sure to subscribe. We spend hours researching real footage, tracking down original sources, and separating documented incidents from internet myths. Also let us know in the comments, which case has disturbed you the most so far? We've still got some of the most unsettling encounters left to come. In April 2019, a YouTuber named Jason uploaded a video to his channel Appy Mountain Trekkers, documenting a solo overnight trip into the mountains. His channel is dedicated entirely to the outdoors, with Jason regularly posting videos of himself hiking, camping, and surviving in the woods, so this particular trip looked like it would be another straightforward addition to that catalog. The hike up to the campsite was uneventful, and once he arrived, he got to work setting up his tent, starting a fire, and settling into the rhythm of an evening alone in the mountains. As the sun began to go down, he tried his hand at spoon carving, and that's when he first heard something unusual coming from the top of one of the mountains nearby.
Keep hearing the strange noise up on the top of the mountain. I can't figure out what that is. I don't know if you guys can hear it, but it sounds like some kind of... almost sounds like a bird, but it doesn't.
He didn't think much of it at the time, writing it off as a bird or some small animal moving through the trees, and went back to getting ready for the night. At around 9 o'clock, he turned his camera off and went to bed. Less than an hour later, he was awake again, pulled out of sleep by a sound he later described as something he had never heard before in his entire life.
Alright guys, we'll give you a quick update. It's about 10 after 10. I laid down about 9 o'clock and I was trying to go to sleep. It took me a while and I was almost asleep, and sometime before 10 I was woke up by something I've never heard in my life. And I know this might sound sensational or something that, you know, I'm not bullshitting. I heard like 4 quick, very loud, deep guttural calls.
It came from a distance, which was the only thing that made it bearable to listen to, but even from far away, it was the kind of sound that gets into you and refuses to leave. Jason struggled to find the right words for it, landing somewhere between a pig, an ape, and the communicating raptors from Jurassic Park. A guttural, layered animal call that didn't fit cleanly into anything he could identify from his years of experience outdoors. He was still visibly shaken when he spoke about it on camera, rattled in a way that his usual composure couldn't quite cover. Eventually, he managed to get back to sleep, but the night wasn't finished with him. Something was circling his tent, moving around the perimeter of his campsite in the dark, and from the sounds of it, there wasn't just one of them. He grabbed his flashlight and his camera and started recording, picking up audio of movement that seemed to track around him from one side of the camp to the other. What he didn't notice in the moment, but what the camera captured clearly, were the eyes. In the bottom left corner of the footage, as Jason panned his flashlight across the tree line, the fiery white reflection of one or two sets of eyes catches the light and holds it for just long enough to see. He went back into his tent and slept through the rest of the night without incident, and when he woke up the next morning and recorded an update for his viewers, he never once mentioned the eyes the camera had caught watching him from the dark. Whether he simply never noticed them in the footage or chose not to address it is unclear, but no follow-up video was ever posted, and the incident was never explained. Jason made it through the night without ever learning exactly what had been watching him. Our next camper also expected a quiet evening alone, but this encounter unfolded much closer than he ever wanted it to. Jonathan is a YouTuber you might recognize from his channel, Happy Hippie Wild Living, where for over 2 years he has been sharing his life outdoors with an audience that has come to know him for his cheerful, unshakable approach to nature. Camping experiences, exploring old places, sleeping in different spots each night, Jonathan does it all with an enthusiasm that rarely wavers, and fear is not something he tends to show his viewers. But on January 3rd, 2024, something happened that pushed even him to his limits. It was day 435 of his life living out in nature, and to mark the new year, he decided to do a longer video than the short ones he'd been posting recently. His destination for the night was a small wilderness hut deep in the Scottish countryside, a bothy called the White Lagan near Loch Dee. He'd stayed in bothies before, but never had any guests share the space with him, and he set off in good spirits despite the cold winter rain, carrying some wood with him just in case there was nothing dry to burn when he arrived. The hike in was quiet and uneventful, exactly the way Jonathan likes his winters. No crowds, no noise, just the open land and whatever the day brings. Inside, he found no one there, which meant the night would likely be his alone. He unpacked his gear, set up his sleeping space, and got the fire going as it grew dark outside, finishing the evening off with haggis seasoned with his usual ketchup, pepper, and mustard. Simple, warm, and exactly what the night called for. A family passed by earlier in the evening and mentioned they might stop in, but as the hours went on and darkness settled properly over the hut, no one came. Jonathan put his music on, sat by the fire, and let himself relax into the quiet. Then the knocking started.
I got one of them water filter straws, and it comes with 2 little bags as well, so you can attach the straw to that. But I've not got to use. Maybe this is the guests. There was no one there. I don't know if that's just the people with me or something. I don't know if that's something they do. But I don't think it would be that family if it was just a dad and his daughter and son.
It came from outside the door, clear enough to hear over everything else, and Jonathan went to check. There was nobody there. He went back inside, and it happened again. Knocking, footsteps moving around outside, and sounds that suggested someone walking deliberately around the hut and then disappearing the moment he stepped out to look. Each time he checked, he found nothing, no sign of anyone, no movement in the dark, just the empty countryside sitting quietly around the building. He admitted on camera that he didn't know what was going on, that this wasn't the kind of thing he ever dealt with on his trips, and that he just wanted a peaceful night away. The confusion in his voice was genuine, and underneath it something closer to unease was starting to creep in. He eventually decided to put his music on loud, focus on the fire, and refuse to let whatever was happening outside ruin the night. It seemed to work. The sounds gradually stopped, and Jonathan managed to get to sleep without any further disturbances. In the morning, he recounted the night with his usual measured tone, acknowledging that something had been going on, but stopping well short of any dramatic conclusion. He wasn't a believer in ghosts, he said, more of an alien person if anything, but he also couldn't explain what he'd heard or find any evidence that anyone had been standing outside that door. The family from earlier didn't seem like the type, and in any case, it hadn't felt like that kind of thing. He never went back to that particular hut, and whatever was making those sounds that night has never been identified. Jonathan eventually left the bothy with nothing more than unanswered questions. Our final story isn't about strange sounds or mysterious footsteps. It's about a discovery so tragic that it changed the way two lifelong outdoorsmen looked at the wilderness forever. Mark Wilkins has been a familiar face in the outdoor YouTube community for over 6 years, running a channel called Northeast Georgia Kayak Fishing, where his viewers have followed him on peaceful journeys through rivers and lakes, watching him capture the beauty of nature and the quiet art of fishing from a kayak. It was a misty morning on Lake Emery, near the Little Tennessee River area, with a thin veil of fog sitting low over the water and the air carrying that particular winter chill that makes every breath feel sharp and clean. The lake was still and glassy, reflecting the gray sky above it, and Mark had invited his longtime friend John to join him for the day. They loaded their kayaks, secured their fishing gear, strapped their GoPros to their chests, and pushed out onto the water feeling entirely at ease with where they were and what they were doing. They'd paddled these stretches before, and the familiarity of it only added to the calm. For the first few hours, everything was exactly as it should have been, casting lines, sharing stories, and letting the current carry them slowly through the winding bends of the river. Then they saw it. Mark's voice on the radio shifted immediately, the calm dropping out of it in an instant.
A human being?
Copy that.
Say again?
Copy. I think we got a dead body here. Yep, we do. A dead body. Oh my God, a dead body. I found a dead body.
He radioed in, asked for confirmation, and said the words plainly. He thought they had a dead body. A hand was visible above the waterline, and when they got close enough to see the face, there was no longer any question about what they were looking at. Both men stayed on the water, neither wanting to get any closer than they already were, while Mark called 911 and tried to describe what he was seeing and where they were positioned between the boat ramp and the dam. He told the dispatcher it could be some kind of Halloween decoration. Part of him was hoping it was, but he could see the face, and he knew it wasn't. Police arrived within minutes and later confirmed what both men had already known. It was a young girl whose life ended far too soon. Who she was, how she had ended up there, and what had happened to her remained details that the authorities kept close. And the peaceful lake was cordoned off and turned into a crime scene, while Mark and John stayed behind to give their statements. Mark uploaded the footage to YouTube, and his viewers responded with an outpouring of support, their comments full of sympathy for the girl and quiet acknowledgement of what the two men had been through. In the weeks that followed, Mark found it genuinely difficult to go back out on the water. The place that had always been his escape had taken on a different feeling entirely, and even when he did return to making videos, there was something different in the way he carried himself, a weight behind the familiar warmth that his long-time viewers could recognize even when he didn't mention it directly. That morning on Lake Emery changed the way he thought about the outdoors and about how quickly the most ordinary day can become something you never fully set down. Those were 6 times campers captured something truly terrifying. Some encounters have reasonable explanations, while others still leave people debating exactly what happened. Which case do you think was the most disturbing, and which one do you think has the simplest explanation? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed today's video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss our next upload. Thanks for watching, stay safe out there, and we'll see you in the next one.